Okay, so something just happened, and I've had a couple things like this happen, and I have to have this conversation again. I already have a video about it, about the whole whoopings are good, I turned out fine thing, where I didn't talk in that video. That's one of like my old videos, but it's like two testimonies about how it goes back to essay, or at least one of them was like how whoopings also revolve around sexual abuse, and then I talked about how people say I turned out fine, but then they're alcoholics. They're turned out, or at least not turned out, but they became attracted to children and a whole bunch of other stuff that happens. And the people who are like that are always the I turned out fine people. So, once again, I seen another situation. So, basically, I was at breakfast and this dude's kid didn't want to take the food to the table. And yeah, so there was that. And then this one lady was like, good thing it's not my kid. First of all, there's so much I could say about that. And it's crazy how she can have, well, I mean, not that I want to, like, I'm not trying to, I don't know, blow somebody not taking some food to the table out of proportions. But, like, I don't know how she could say something like that when she's in the relationship she's in, which I didn't even really know was a relationship. Honestly, I thought it was just some dude that she was trying to be nice to and help get services. He obviously does not like her, and yeah. So it's weird for her to say something like that. And basically my point with this is that the I turned out fine people are the people who are always trying to like say that people should be beating up kids. They're always in situations that reflect that they got beat up or they admit it and they brag about it. So anyway, she then went on, wait, no, she said that then this dude, this is the first time I've really ever heard him talk. I never knew he had a New York accent because he never says anything. I was actually kind of surprised, but then he was like, people are scared to discipline their kids in public because they worry CPS is going to say something. Now, I already know how people are that say that because, of course, I had narcissistic or quote unquote narcissistic, but Jezebelic, Leviathan, and other spirit filled abusers who were demonized and would say things like that, which is so funny to me because honestly, anybody that's ever had a run in with CPS knows that they come to side with the abusers and help abuse the kids because they're part of the Cash for Kids system. They're a human trafficking organization. They're not about to help anybody do jack, and if they do take somebody, it's only to throw them in more abuse for money. Unless maybe it's like some custody dispute, because of course, like there's situations with that where they'll happy-go-luckily throw the kid in with the other abusive parent, and then they'll be alienated from the good parent, or the dads only ever get custody when they're molesters, really. So yeah, there's that. But other than that, CPS is not about to do anything, and anybody that's ever had like a run-in with them would know. So back to the story though. So yeah, the other guy was like, well, not the other guy, but this guy was like, people are scared to discipline their kids in public because of CPS, and then the lady who said what did she say again? Oh yeah, the lady who said the I'm glad that's not my kid thing. When I started the conversation, oh my gosh, she then responded with if I would dare somebody to call CPS on me, blah 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 blah. And then she started saying something about Israel, and I don't even know what she went into after that, but I do know that after she said whatever in the world, the dude with the accent responded again, the New York accent, and he was like, yeah, people are scared to beat their kids, and I think a good beating would something, 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 and my mom used to beat me and then had my nose bleeding to hit me with brushes, and it taught me to respect my mom, and I never disrespected my mom, and I respect my elders. Well, you're saying all that I turned out fine, bull crap, but you're like 50 something. You're turned out for one. And your boyfriend is like, looks like he's 19, 20 years old, maybe even 18. And you turned out fine. But you also ended up homeless and uh, most likely addicted to drugs from all the trauma you went through. And you've been homeless for however long. You're obviously from somewhere in New York. And you ended up homeless all the way on the West Coast. But you turned out fine. And that's the crazy, the I turned out fine people never, they're commonly in some of the worst predicaments. My mom's boyfriend was one of those I turned out fine people. You turned out fine. You were lied to about who your mom was for years. You're one of those down low people with a feminine thug persona. You terrorize everybody you come in contact with. You love chaos. You're so demonized from going into a reprobate mind from your trauma, feeling like you just had to put yourself above everybody else to where you have a God complex and you believe that you're a God. And so much stuff that I could say, not trying to bash anybody, but I'm just trying to make the point of the whole I turned out fine thing. And anybody who's here from the evidence channels already knows how my whole situation was with my mom and her boyfriend and even my dad and other people from when I was doing the evidence channels before I escaped my situation. So they're just always so messed up. Like, literally, when I was still doing the evidence channels, there was this whole video where my mom's boyfriend claimed that he got some kids to help him kidnap crackheads, and he had them locked in cages when he was setting them on fire and feeding them dog food. How true that is, I honestly have no clue. It could be true, but it sounds like one of those crazy things that he would brag about that probably never happened, that he thinks makes him look cool or something because of the whole effeminate thug persona thing that a lot of traumatized guys especially have going. And sometimes the girls if they're turned out, but especially guys because they feel like they have to do the feminine thug persona to hide their trauma because of social conditioning with all the music and entertainment industry in general bull crap, all the social conditioning and psyops with that, they feel like that is what a quote unquote man is, even though it's not anywhere near what a real man is. So they take on those personas that were pushed to them through music because that's the only thing they have to look up to, even in their 50s and 60s. And same thing with the dudes who are really traumatized and then they turned out sometimes too, and then they get tattoos from the face down to try to hide the real trauma and all that stuff. So much I could say about that. But yeah, back to the story though. So he mentioned the whole nosebleed thing and quote unquote respecting his elders. And then the lady who started the convo with her really weird comment that she honestly shouldn't have made was like, well, I don't know about all that. I don't agree with all that beating on kids because I used to get stripped down and whipped. And then the other dude was like, well, I never got whipped, but I did get beat with brushes and stuff. There's just so much I could say about that. People are just always pushing along generational trauma. It's still insane to me though. It's like, oh my gosh. Actually, I have another example. So some other people I live around, I guess, they will sometimes have little rants about kids these days and how they are and quote unquote expecting everything to be handed to them, and then the rant went on how they used to get whoopings and how they used to get beatings and all that stuff, and how basically another I turned out fine argument, even though the situation was so bad, they ended up homeless by themselves at like 14. I don't even understand that turned out fine argument. And I don't understand why the people who do it even do it, because they're always in predicaments that show they didn't turn out fine. That's one of the funniest and craziest things about it. And of course, like I already said in plenty of videos, even before I became homeless at 16, I'm pretty sure, I would always go into, or at least when the topic came up, I would always go into the fact that people commonly first become homeless by themselves somewhere from age 7 to 16. And it's crazy how many of those people are the I turned out fine people. But yeah, you turned out fine, but you ended up with now uplifted fetishes because, of course, paraphilias and sexual perversion is uplifted in general these days. Because, I mean, for one, mental illness is being normalized. And if mental illness is being normalized, then the philosophies made by the mental health professionals have to be pushed. And, of course, the mental health system was created by child molesters who are pushing pro-pedophile philosophies. Same thing they push in the schools, too. So, since all of that is normalized, it's really common to see a whole bunch of I turned out fine people that got beat on and whipped their whole life, and now they're in the quote unquote BDSM and want people to hit them and beat them up, and they quote unquote like it, but really that's just a trauma response. Because I mean, if you're in a situation, sometimes you have to like convince yourself that you like the situation and that it doesn't hurt to be able to cope with it, but then you can get stuck like that, and that's why you have all these people running around with dog collars and stuff and whips. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Probably could say some other stuff, but in fact, no, I did think of something else to say. How can you say you respect your elders, but you yourself look like you are an elder, doing something that a real elder would never do, and dating that boy that you're dating? And then there's just so much I can say about the whole I turned out fine thing, still just with this person alone. Like when they're panhandling, he'll be on one part of the highway and then his literal boyfriend will be on this other side. And I remember when I first saw him with the dude, I thought that was his kid. They honestly kind of look kind of similar. So yeah, he'll be on one side and then his boyfriend will be on the other side. And then they'll switch. And they'll just keep doing that for a good minute. And yeah, they turned out fine, or at least he turned out fine. I don't even know what to say. It's just really annoying hearing how brainwashed people really are. It's like people have so much cognitive dissonance to literally everything that goes on around them. Literally everything. Everything's a conspiracy. Everybody's not everybody, but most people are in denial about things. The people who think that they're quote unquote woke, well, that the meaning of that word has been changed so much by both sides of left right mind hurting. But people, so let me not even use that word. People think that they like know what's going on, but they really don't, because they're in the right side of left right mind hurting. and just listening to a whole bunch of COINTELPRO bullcrap of people telling them what's going on, but they're really not. They're just blaming the quote-unquote left for everything, even though both wings are on the same bird. People lie to themselves about things just to be able to go to sleep at night. If you talk about actually doing something to fix some of the issues, then you're quote-unquote depressed, or they're going to say that you're leading them into depression. They don't want to talk about that, even though everything that happens in the world only happens because we let it happen, and a whole bunch of bull crap. And one of the funny things is the people who will like jump up and say that they don't want to talk about something because it's depressing or because it's making them depressed, they calmly started the conversation first, but then they do some weird guilt trippy flip bull crap for a conversation that they honestly started. So yeah, I don't know. It's just the way people have let the world become by continuously pushing along generational curses that they don't have to. And then don't even get me started with I turned out fine people who ended up in prison, which honestly I think like two of the people I mentioned the most did. Of course my mom's boyfriend, I already know that. He was always bragging about that 10 years plus he did. I mean really though, imagine claiming you turned out fine, but the only thing you have to brag about is the fact that you went to prison for 10 years. And honestly, probably do have something that you really could brag about, but you're so warped by this effeminate thug persona and these bullcrap psyop rappers that you think that is what you should brag about. When honestly, if you want to be truthfully honest, the only one of them that's probably ever really unalived anybody really is Beyonce, but that's behind the scenes. But the rest of them, I mean, it's just something demonic to even brag about anyway, but I'm just saying that they're actors, they all are. Honestly, anybody with a platform is nothing but an actor. Same thing with politicians where both wings are on the same bird anyway. So, my point is, most of those people have not done any of the things that they've claimed they've done. I mean, like, well, honestly, they're all turned out just because of stuff they have to do in the industry, but it seems like, if you ask me, the Mobb Deep dudes were always dating. It seems like it, ever since they were really young, it looks like they were always dating. And of course, depending on how old the person is, the person with the feminine thug persona, they're going to look up to people like that. But yeah, I mean, people they get whooping so much and quote unquote turn out fine, to where after a while they can't keep their pants up, which that's what that comes from anyway. That comes from buck breaking, which was a form of vergovasel, also done in sex trafficking and other things. A form of trauma-based mind control where you sodomize people and give them quote-unquote whoopings. That's what sagging actually comes from. It was in prison too. People always tell that part, but that's not even really where it started. But it was there too for similar reasons, same vergovasel stuff. But those are the I turned out fine people. I mean, they really did turn out. And I think maybe that's really it. Probably could keep going. I feel like with any topic I talk about, I could keep going.